there's a beautiful phrase that we learn in theater, and early on, we're always taught about the what ifs, implying the possibility of things. Not the why is this happening, but what if this could happen? What if I were this? What if I were this, what would that be like? And I think we forgot how to use our imaginations, and that just starting with that question, just it does something to your brain. Your brain is like, it's savvy, right? Your mind is savvy, so it's going to take your lead. If you invite it to think about all the reasons why you're happy, you're going to find them eventually.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Cohn.
Today's chat was a magical exploration, very thoughtful and deep, with a true artist. I was blown away by Rico, a man who has dived into the wilderness of consciousness and not only has explored it, has embodied it into his life. I was surprised with how quickly we got into this chat, and the outcomes were fruitful. I learnt a lot, had a laugh, and smiled all the way through. So let's get into it. Enrico Colantoni, or Rico, is an actor, writer, director, and producer. You probably recognize him from Veronica Mars, Galaxy Quest, Just Shoot Me, Flashpoint, and Person of Interest, to name a few. He continues to distinguish himself as an actor who consistently showcases his talent in the world of stage, film, and television. He is currently a series regular on the new FX comedy series English Teacher, and he will next be seen as the co-lead in the upcoming CBC police procedural Allegiance, and the upcoming feature films Humane and the dark comedy Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, Frank. Previously, he co-starred in HBO Max's acclaimed drama series Station 11, based on the bestseller, and played the co-lead in Birthday Candles opposite Debra Messing at the Roundabout Theatre, receiving a 2022 Theatre World Award for a Broadway debut. His list of credits is way too long, so check them out in the episode notes below, but he's also enjoyed success as a writer and director with 2 short films, The Bike and Issues, the latter of which premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, and he also directed 2 episodes of iZombie after appearing on the show, and he's also received a 2019 Canadian Screen Award nomination for Best Guest Actor/Drama in Travellers, and he also starred in the CBS series Flashpoint, where he received a Gemini and Canadian Screen Awards. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about rejection, breaking out of the family construct to pursue your dreams, identity, working and not working, mental hurdles, gratitude, Just Shoot Me, happiness, metaphysics, Grandmaster Kitty, plus plenty more. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Cohn. That's Cohn with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. I'll start off with a quote from you. And this is my favorite quote of all time. You have to be a little crazy to be an actor. That's a quote by you. I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah. You have to be crazy. Who wants to put up with the rejection? Who wants to put up with the, people looking at you and denying your definition of an actor? You know what I mean? If they hadn't seen you, then you're not an actor. If you're waiting tables, you're not an actor. So it's a constant a barragement of criticism, and until you actually are recognized on some level, then they might consider that you've done something. But then you have to keep proving yourself and over and over and over again. And so you have to be a little crazy to go through the starvation, go through the struggles, to give up, to walk away from your family, to eat bouillon cubes and Wonder Bread for a year. You have to be crazy to.
Did you know that when you were first starting out that you'd have to have this craziness to be able to survive and thrive in your life?
No, no, of course not. You think because you're driven by passion, you can persevere. You'll persevere. You'll get there. And I guess no one ever told me that there's a law of probability. If you're crazy long enough, you might get a job. You might start working if you stick in it long enough. Because people end up realizing, well, they want normalcy. They want a regular job. They want to work in a bank. All of a sudden, they want to go back to school and become a teacher. They don't want to deal with sleeping on futons and sharing a one-bedroom flat with like three other crazy actors.
When you look back at it, because we're going to get into a bit of your journey, when you look back at all the experiences that you've had to now, isn't it kind of remarkable? You mentioned like sleeping on the couch, eating certain foods. You don't know when your next paycheck's going to come out. Isn't it just wild to think that when you first started to where you are now, that you don't have to necessarily go through all of that and you've put in the hard yards and, finally you can have your own place, you can have your own bed.
Yeah, that's true. But we still feel like we're frauds.
Yeah.
We still feel like we'll never pass up a free meal.
Yep.
Because we'll take the leftovers. It's like we're still living in poverty consciousness. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm a failure. I'm a fraud. If I'm not working, what am I? If I'm not working, what am I? It's just like, it's horrible. It's like, and you could still go home to your big house in the hills and drive your big fancy car, but I don't care who you are. There's always something that makes you want. I was telling a story about Peter Boyle just the other day, and it was my first. It was my first big role. It was a recurring role on NYPD Blue, and I got to work with Peter Boyle, and I mean, he's a giant he's an icon. He's a great actor, and he was still like, just racked with, was that good? Pondering what the choices he was making. Is like, what am I doing? It's just like, are you kidding me? Racked with my good enough. It's just like we're George Siegel referred to actors as damaged goods. We're damaged goods.
Well, you just go up and go, hi, you're damaged goods. Hi, you're damaged goods.
We all belong on the island of misfit toys,
I also read or heard that he was a bit of a mentor for you and he helped you. He was full of gratitude. And I feel like that would massively change not only your career or your mindset, but also your mindset on life. And here's someone that's been doing it for a while. He has a very, very large sitcom and he's still coming in every day with a smile. I'd love you to tell me what that kind of like did for you and your psyche.
I think that's the life experience that he went through. He was like an A-list movie star in the 70s. He was like a movie star. And then people make choices, but he rose from the ashes. He got himself up. And so Just Shoot Me was probably his first consistent, I get to go to work every day job that he hadn't had in a couple of years. And it was like, he came to work happy every day. He was singing,
great.
Skipping his step, and he led as an example. He set the tone on that show because everybody looked to him. And if he was having a bad day, we all had a bad day, but he never had a bad day. He was just so grateful to be there. And every moment, laughing, talking, eating with his mouth full, spitting food. It's just like, oh, it was lovely.
Isn't that, it sounds so nice. And I know that you've been doing stuff before, but you're in this large sitcom. There's a lot of eyeballs on it. And you're seeing I don't know if he's number one on the call sheet, but he seems to be number one in everyone's hearts. And you're seeing someone come with this love. I just feel like it would change your mindset because, when you do a certain amount of anything, I think you've done close to 150 episodes of that show. Sometimes you can be like, oh, another day at work, or it's Monday. And someone like that is just coming in and be like, no, I'm so happy to be here. I feel like that little switch in your mind would change how you perceive acting and also life.
Everything you said, you just answered the question, Michael. You
Oh,
just answered,
excellent.
changed everything. Because working with that man and that whole cast for 7 years, because we were all, I mean, I was probably the least seasoned, but Laura had been around, Wendy had been around, and they all, the one thing we had in common is that we all came from the theater, except for Spade. But although he came from stand-up comedy and SNL, he was always in front of an audience. So we had, we came with that, the, we were aware of the relationship between us and an audience, and we were very respectful of that. We were very excited about that. It wasn't a closed set. It wasn't a single camera show where we never got a reaction. We loved being in front of people, and
Oh,
he loved being in front of people. He just loved every minute of it. And of course, that's infectious because it's like if he's doing it that way, I've got no reason. And believe me, I was probably the biggest pain in the ass, and that it was just like,
oh, really?
well, only that, well, because you undervalue what you have. You think, well, I was still maybe, what was I, maybe 40 years old at the time, still young. I'd been doing it for a while. It was like, I want to do something serious, man. I want to
Yeah.
do some drama. You know what I mean? It's just like, ah. So by season 5, I would talk to my friend Chuck all the time. He goes, what if I just quit? He goes, are you fucking crazy? You crazy? Let me tell you, I'll give you 2 words. David Caruso. David Caruso left NYPD Blue after the first season in pursuit of a film career, and it really, I mean, he did a few films, but he really didn't. It really didn't pan out. And then eventually he went back to TV and was a big star on
Yeah, I know who he is now.
NC, no, not NCIS, but Criminal Minds
Yeah,
Miami.
yeah, I know exactly.
At the time, he was infamous because he left such a great show to after one season. So he put me back in my place, my dear friend Chuck. I still owe him.
And
I
that
still owe him.
kick up the bum, did that change anything? Because I know that you've spoken and in a lot of your articles, you do talk about gratitude and that you're grateful to be doing not only work, but just the small things in life. It sounds like it's a practice of yours, whether consciously or
It
unconsciously.
has to be. It has to be. At my, and I'm not just saying at my age, but maybe you know what starts to happen is that your kids get older. They're not your children anymore. They're their own. You're reacting to circumstances that are completely out of your control, and you still get to do what I do. And it's just like this is kind of it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. So you have to develop a sense of humor and go, wow, I still live in the land of make believe. It's like shit is happening all over the world, and it's just like I get to do this, and it's like you know what? I'm a lucky son of a bitch. I am a lucky son of a bitch. I don't want to work in an office. I never wanted to work in an office. I don't want to do anything else ever in my life. And so far, I'm in my 30th year.
Wow.
30, but 40 years if I count all the years I did in school and studied and did plays and stuff like that where I wasn't making 5 cents. It's like yeah, I'm grateful. I'm absolutely grateful, not only for what I do, but for just that 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 life force that fills us when we do get to act, when we do get to play. It's a
Oh,
reminder that we can all still play, and it's like and when you start bringing that attitude into your life, where you bring that playful attitude to your life, that becomes infectious to other people,
oh,
and
so contagious.
you know what I mean. It's like yeah, I'm not taking this serious. Why are you taking it serious? Let's and I don't drink, I don't smoke. What do I do? I don't know. I just look at almost every situation and kind of go, this is all weird. What are we doing here?
I love it's like a beautiful, playful energy. I'm obsessed with the topic of play and fun. We have a sort of similar upbringing in the sense which we'll work towards. No one ever told me that you could play and have fun in your life or career once you hit an adult. I was an accountant. I've left. I'm now pursuing screenwriting and doing the podcast.
I know that with your family environment, I think they actually wanted you to be a priest and you maybe could have been a teacher, but you said, no, you don't want to do that. You put your hand up and you announced to your family and the external environment, you want to be an actor.
Yeah.
There is no such concept. Well, there is, but you know what I mean? There's no such concept in the sense of like typically from like immigrant families or even just certain communities that you can play and have fun for a career. It can be quite scary to say it out loud. I want to have fun in my life, and that can challenge a lot of people. So I'd love to know how you kind of dealt with your parents and your external environment when you were under 20 and you said, I'm going to be an actor.
You know what? I really respect what you did. You actually went went down that road. You became an accountant, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Hated it.
And then you got to that door and said, no, you turned around and you're doing something. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Thanks.
I sort of had the same thing because I thought my you know, I love my family, I love my parents, but they were fucked up, man. They were like and I was the youngest, you know. My brother, poor guy, he got the brunt of it, you know. And me as a witness was just like, this is bullshit. There's got to be some joy in the world. And so when I took an elective at U of T on that road, the University of Toronto, where I was taking a general first year curriculum, you know, just like, you know, history and sociology, but I took one theater elective. And that teacher at that time made it so much fun. And she said, you know what? You can do this if you want to. And I just needed that one voice to that seed in my head that said, really? And she goes, go to New York. Go to New York. I go, oh, okay. And it was just like, and then once you decide, I think the decision process is the biggest, it's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. Because so many people decide and then they don't commit to it. Or they imagine, okay, I made the decision, I'm going to, you know, they stop short. A decision is deciding and closing all the doors, the back doors, and closing everything. I've decided I'm going to New York and I'm going to learn. And I'm going to give myself 2 years to learn this. So I said, but it just turned into 11, 12 years, 25, 30 years of just wanting to keep doing this because it's just so much fun.
Oh, we're going to talk about this. I love this. This is so empowering. A lot of people don't, and there's no judgment because, you know, I understand I've been on both ends, not having the courage to say, this is who I am, this is what I want to do. And I found this quote, I'm misquoting a little bit, but when you wanted to kind of declare your happiness, your pursuit of acting, you said, this is what I want to do. If I say this is going to screw up a lot of people's plans for me. And I thought that was so interesting.
A lot of people, what for me?
A lot of other people's plans for me.
Oh, yeah. It's going to screw up all their plans.
Can you talk more to that? Because when you put that to words, I just had like flashbacks of my life. I'm like, wow, that's deep.
Well, once I realized that, and you know what? I owe a lot of people to give me that courage. And it was usually, and it started with 2 heartbreaks, back-to-back heartbreaks. As a young man, I was 19 and 20 years old, and I'd fallen in love once and got over it, then fell in love again and got crushed.
Yeah.
And it was like, this sucks. I hate this feeling. And it was a friend of mine who said, you know, well, think about the things that make you happy. You know what I mean? And it's like happy. I have to choose to be happy. And so it was the only thing at the time. I was actually, you know, I was in the middle of that elective at the University of Toronto. I go, that makes me happy. And I think people are just afraid to commit to being happy and making choices that, hey, this feels good. This feels good. And it's not about hedonistic choices. I'm not talking about, you know, indulging, because those don't make me happy. Those just get me drunk and make me stupid.
Yep.
Like just something that really feels expansive and alive. If it makes you feel expansive, not this, you know, there's like, I'm this, but I'm this. You got to look at that, because that's aligned with everything that's going on. You know what I mean? That you're aligned with something bigger than yourself, and you don't necessarily have to intellectualize it, because most people don't. And so they have certain plans for you that say, well, we immigrated here, we're struggling, we want you to have an education. It's like, well, I'm learning every day, Dad. Does that matter? Is that okay with you? It's like, but here's the thing. Once they saw how serious I was, my family, my friends, everybody involved, my whole world, once they saw that I'm doing it, everybody was just saying, "Oh, the odds of being an actor, there's so many actors are starving." It's just like, "What are you talking about? You're never going to do that." It's like they just lambasted me with negative things in an attempt to change my mind. But once I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I got nothing to lose," they all went, "Oh, all right.
Like, oh, I didn't expect
How
that
can we
reaction.
how can we help?"
Oh, that's wonderful. So it was
You
out
know
of,
what I mean? They were like, "Okay."
isn't it interesting? I didn't have it to quite that extent, but it comes out of love. It might come out in not necessarily the way that we want. We just sometimes want family members to just kind of tap us on the back and go, "I believe in you." But to
Yeah,
still have that courage, because we're not just talking about your parents. I think you had cousins from Italy say, "You
yeah.
sure you want to do this?" You're not just getting it from two people. You're getting a
Yeah,
lot.
no, yeah, from the whole tribe, everybody in Italy. Yeah, you read that part from my Italian cousins. They were calling me, my friends, my brother.
Our friends. Yeah.
My brother was doing it on my brother, he's my hero. My
Nice.
brother was doing it under pressure from my dad. You
He's
could
like,
tell.
"Dad said this. I just have
Yeah,
to
dad,
see."
you know what I mean? He wouldn't admit that that was dad, but he put it in his own words, It's just like, yeah, I don't believe you. I don't know, Michael. It's just there was just again, if you like feeling good, you know what I mean? And when people say shitty things and it makes you feel bad, then maybe there's something in what they're saying that just doesn't jive with you.
Okay, you're speaking my language. We're going to talk about, obviously, you've got a strong intuition and gut. Why do you think, and I'll ask the question, I'll preface it with something. Why do you think
Yeah.
people are scared to embrace whether it's success or happiness? And I'll preface this with I was very lucky. I had the author Bronnie Ware on the podcast, and she's written the book The Top Five Regrets of the Dying. And very long story short, international best-selling author. She was a
That's funny.
palliative care nurse, and I think she's seen hundreds, maybe thousands of people who have sound mind. And she would interview them before their death what their top five regrets were. I think the number one regret was, I always paraphrase this, I wish that I'd lived the life that I wanted to live and not the life I thought of others wanted me to live. And when I also read that, I'm like, yeah, wow. Like that, we're not just talking a few people have that experience. It's a universal. We all experience this, and not everyone has the courage or bravery. There's other words that we can put in there, but you actually
Yeah.
did. It's not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Ah, wow. The should, right? The shoulds that propel us forward. We should do this and we should do that.
Mm.
That's very cool. I had the benefit of having seen my older sister die. You know what I mean? And I say it's a benefit because it rocked my world. I was a 6 year old. She was 10 years old, and she died of leukemia. And so, and I saw what it did to my parents, not really understanding what's going on, and this cloud of grief happened. And I sort of understood early on that I got nothing to lose. I really got nothing to lose, and I got it more and more, you know, combined with the heartache and romance, and it's like I really got nothing to lose because everything I'm trying to fit in, everything I'm trying to do, live, what we think is a secure lifestyle. We're trying to build security and be safe and protect ourselves from the inevitable. You know what I mean? And no one is safe.
Mm.
Absolutely no one is safe. We're not. We're all gonna croak, and we're all gonna lose money eventually, somehow, some way. If we're happy, we'll eventually we'll lose money. You know what I mean? You just will, because you got to spend. You know, You're going to want to play. People play in other ways, and so jobs aren't secure. What job is secure? Nothing is secure. Absolutely nothing is secure.
Agreed.
We just got to make it up as we go along. We just got to keep making it up. And if we do, we realize, oh shit, we're all creative. We're all actors. We're all performers. Then nothing is real. And that whole relationship with death, and it's like, is it really the end? I don't know. And if it is, that's fine. But it's like, but if that's the end game, then fuck it. I'm gonna. And again, I'm not somebody who wants to jump out of an airplane and get that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't do that stuff. I don't take risks like that. I don't take risks that involve, instantaneous death. I take risks in following what I hear in my heart when other people are saying, you know,
You're speaking my language, and I just want a huge credit to you because obviously going through the loss of a very close family member, it can be tough to say the least. But to be able to use your language is beautiful. That there was kind of like a gift in that you're able to learn from a tragedy. Not many people see the world that way, and I love it. I think it's contagious. I've got a similar mindset in that there's beauty in some of the horror. But why do you think, I know that you were talking about, why do you think that some people just cannot embrace the happiness? That I know that there are external reasons if someone wants to be an actor, there's financial and all of that stuff, but a lot of people fear putting their hand up and saying, I deserve happiness.
oh no. I think it's because they spend too much time reading the news
Yeah, that's a great, absolutely, yes. Yeah, doom and
and
gloom.
waste time following politics. They wait. They're wasting. They spend a lot of time just watching the wrong shit. And I've always been surprised when people just can't articulate how they feel. You ask, I mean, I love asking that question. So, how you feeling? And they go right into, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's just like, no, dude, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
How are you feeling right now?
yeah,
Are you conscious enough to be aware if you're happy or sad or mad or glad or fucking horny or hungry or, whatever. It's like, are you aware of what you're feeling right now? And I think if people actually stop looking outside themselves and start looking inside and go, oh shit, I'm scared shitless. What is this feeling all about? Is it going to control me? Is it going to can I look at it? Can I study it? Can I have fun with it? Or is it just going to like freeze me up? And so it's just the first step, right? To be aware of what you're feeling and then to make peace with those feelings. Somewhere in there, once you exhaust all those shitty feelings, you're going to feel happy
yeah. And I know
because
that,
that's who we were when we came into this fucking world. It's just like little kids jumping around, using our imaginations, filling time and space in our minds, and making shit up.
that's the joy of life. And I love that I've come back to the play and the fun. And, back on the fear side, I think you also meditate that
Yeah.
I was very unconscious of my fears. And then it can be scary to look at them because you have to dive deep into you. And so when I meditate, I've only been doing it more recently. I'm like, why does this scare me? And then I'll try and distract myself. No, no, no. Why does this scare me? Going through the layers and then
Yeah.
you get distracted. No, no. Why am I scared? And often it can be
Yeah.
something that I perceive as simple for me. Oh, this happened when I was 6 and dad said this. And I go, that was then. And that is not what's happening now. And looking at
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
fear, there are many methods, but to me, that seems to be a bit of a game changer because we all have fears. It doesn't matter who anyone is. And being able to identify even a few of them means we can make more conscious choices towards happiness. But I didn't even know that you could do that. And so now that you put that into words, I feel like everyone can, have just even if it's a little dive into what is their fear, changes your life, makes it easier.
I tell my kids, if you want to know where you are, who you are, lock yourself in a room for 24 hours and turn the TV off and turn and turn it all off. Try it. Just lock yourself in a room for 24 hours and see the madness. You see the madness, or do a cleanse for 3 days. You know what I mean? Like just eat nothing but apples for 3 days, or just water. Now, water is a little intense, but just, and I'm not recommending this. This is what I do for me, just to recalibrate, my joy.
Yeah.
Because when you find yourself, people, it's like, even though I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't do drugs, I eat. I'm a sugar addict.
We are the same in that regard.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's like it's all, everybody has something.
Yeah.
And so I find myself, I have to put it back at first. You've got to stop the car and start over again. You're in sixth gear. You just like you gotta turn the car off, park, and just recalibrate.
I know it's especially with the sugar. The sugar, I've gone through so much madness with it, the ups and the downs, and
Yeah. Oh,
dealing
sure.
with it, and different tactics. And a lot of them work. And sugar is also, I think you would probably know this, like meaning of that you want some like happiness or sweet in your life. And there's also
I think it's a lovely metaphor, a lovely reminder of why we do it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's one of those things that people don't talk about enough because it's not a inverted commas drug, even though it is. But my life is a lot better when I don't have it. And
Yeah.
you've reminded me to go back.
That's very interesting. It's like I think there's such a pandemic of unhappiness in the world.
Mhm.
There's a beautiful phrase that we learn in theater, and we're always taught about the what if,
Ooh.
the what ifs, implying the possibility of things. Not the why is this happening, but what if this could happen? What if I were this? What if I were this, what would that be like? And I think we forgot how to use our imaginations, and that just starting with that question, just it does something to your brain. Your brain is like, it's savvy, right? Your mind is savvy, so it's going to take your lead. If you invite it to think about all the reasons why you're happy, you're going to find them eventually.
So you can see it.
Ask your brain. It's like, why am I so happy? Just like, why am I so happy? Why am I so happy? Oh, why am I so happy? Happy? I'm not happy. I want to be happy. What if I'm not happy? What if I could be happy? What would I do if I was happy? You know what I mean? It's just like, and that's the shit we learn in theater school. It's not even psychology or therapy. It's like we learn that shit in theater school in the first year, to use the what if. Because I think it was Stanislavski who coined it or something. It's just like the what if, the what if, the great what if.
Someone, I feel like someone had taught me that a while ago. And, when you're in your moments of like sadness, or you're not feeling optimal, that question, like, what if you could feel good? And then even you're like, well, I'm never going to feel good, but your brain
No, what if?
But then you allow for it, because I know if I can't see something or feel something, I know feeling can be a bit harder, then I'm not going to achieve it. So, for example, what springs to mind is screenwriting. If I can't see one of my scripts on TV or in the cinemas, then I'm not going to be able to build to it. So by asking that question, what if it can be in the cinemas, or what if I'm healthy? Yeah.
That's right. Because then you realize it's happening.
Mm.
It's not a fantasy. It actually exists. People write screenplays, and then it's in a movie theater. Who's going to say that it's not possible? It's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
And so when you start thinking like that, it's like, well, what if I can do it? It's happening right there. Why not me? It's like, it's remarkable how many champions of any sport ask themselves that question.
Yeah.
Why not me? Why not me? It's like, I don't know. I don't have an answer. No one has a good answer for that.
It's also allowing yourself to achieve your own greatness. everyone has personal greatness, brilliance, genius, whatever you want to call it, and we can all access it. And then by asking that question, what if, we're allowing ourselves towards, I don't know what the right word is, like a better vision for ourselves. It's possible, as
Yeah,
you said.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
That's going to be something I'm going to put in my repertoire more often, because you can change just a little bit in your brain. You
One
can,
little thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's like,
I know you've
was
looked,
was it? I think it was Henry Ford who said, I think it was Henry Ford who said, you know, you read enough Napoleon Hill, and you just sort of it repeats itself.
yeah,
Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right.
it's how you perceive it. We'll see
Well, I
it.
mean, yeah, I think, oh, I can't, I can't. Well, then I'm right. Either way, you're right. Either way, you're right. Anyway, I love
I
that quote.
No, it's great. And we could probably talk about this for many hours, so we'll see how we go. I know that so you're in New York, well, just do a bit of a summary to get to this point. You're in New York, you've started to study. I think you're 20 or 21. It's not easy in New York. You probably don't know that many people. You've mentioned that financially it's tough, and I'm sure even mentally at times it's tough. I think at some point, and you're really liking the studying, I believe, at some point you realized that you weren't where you wanted to be, so you made some shifts. And these are some of the shifts. Actually, one of the shifts is that you met a lady, I think it's at the same time, called Grandmaster Kitty. I couldn't find any information, but I'd love to know where you were at that stage and what she kind of helped unlock or rediscover within yourself.
Grandmother Kitty was a Lakota, a native of the Lakota tribe, and she was a shaman.
Nice.
And so I went to New York. I had a great time at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. It was 3 years of just doing plays and just feeling alive. And then school was over, and there was a 5-year period there where it was just, now what do I do? No, I couldn't find an agent. I was cleaning everything. I was cleaning toilets, waiting tables, bussing tables. It was just like, just I didn't know. I didn't know anything, and so I went to, at that time I was still, I was interested in metaphysics. Just like
Ooh. At that age, that
at 20 years old, sure, because I grew up Catholic, right?
yeah.
I grew up Catholic, so Catholicism to me was always like, oh, God was always real in my life. It was like since I was a kid, and then when your sister dies and all that stuff, and you see the hypocrisy of things, and you start challenging it, and you start looking for other things. So I studied Buddhism, I read about Hinduism, you read all those books that
Yep.
actors were reading in the 80s. Shirley MacLaine had just come out with Out on a Limb, and we're reading that. We're talking about reincarnation and all that stuff. And it's just like, I don't know if I believe this, but I was living in Toronto my whole life, and we were just Italians, eating prosciutto and capicolo. And as long as there was food on the table, we were all good. It's just like, dude, this is a whole new reality that I just stepped into.
Wow.
I'm meeting, you know, my first people of color. I'm meeting my first, people of mixed sexualities. This is like I was living in New York City, man. This is like I was fucking.
Everything. Yeah.
I was like, it was just like I was in Oz. So everything was coming at me. All these things were coming at me. So when it was time to just meet somebody, and she suggested this grandmother Kitty.
Who's she? Sorry.
Huh?
Who recommended you to
You know
Grandmaster
what?
Kitty?
I can't tell you. Maybe it was an actor or somebody, just an actor. We were just talking about, something, and she goes, if you're, because I had mentioned that, I just want. There's something about New Mexico that I want to go to New Mexico. I'd never been to New Mexico. I don't even think I had seen a picture of New Mexico. I have no idea what I was saying, but I said New
You
Mexico.
felt it.
Well, we have to talk to Grandmother Kitty. I go, who the fuck is Grandmother Kitty? And so I went, I took a train to Long Island, and there she was, this beautiful older woman, snow white hair, long, and I had to bring her tobacco, drum tobacco. I had to bring her, that was my offering. I had to bring her. I didn't know why. She said thank you. She did a little prayer, and she smoked. She rolled it all up, and she smoked, and every time she puffed, it was a prayer. It was a prayer. I go, I understand prayer. I understand prayer. I understand that relationship between what you're connecting to you and to, call it God, call it whatever you want. But she took me down this path of native tradition. You know, she introduced me to sweat lodges and long dances, and
Oh, long dance. What are they?
you know what? I still don't know because I couldn't do it. It was just a dance, ceremonial dance that that you did all night to the beat of a drum. You just
Wow.
go around in circle from sundown to sun up, right? I couldn't do it. I had to go in the car and like fall asleep. I chickened out. Nobody liked me. Nobody. Grandmother Kitty was the only one who defended me
Oh
because
no.
I was a lazy guy who was just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But what she gave me was almost a direct line to a better explanation of what spirit is. Spirits in the wind, spirits in the direction, spirits in the animals, spirits in the trees. They're just spirits everywhere. And it's like that sort of, the native tradition is just so beautiful and so simple. It's probably the purest of all the faiths because it is inclusive. It's all the people. It's all the people. It's a two-legged. It's a four-legged. Everybody had a name. Everything had a name. Everything had a story. Everything was an allegory. Everything
Oh.
was connected. You know, and so that was Grandmother Kitty to me. And she brought me to Arizona. She introduced me to the desert. She introduced me to so many beautiful things. She introduced me to cleansing and cleaning my body and eating better. And
Wow.
I mean, she was pivotal in my life, 100%. And the people that were around her, the people that I still talk to this day, you know, it's just like, you know, so to find a family, a spiritual family where, you know, people will look at you and say, I
Like
see
I
you. You're a
see.
good guy. It was like, wow, really? And not because I did a great job on stage or like I got that scene. It's just like, wow, that was so emotional. It's just like you weren't being applauded for what you did. You were being applauded for who you were.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know, and that was. I mean, I didn't even understand that almost to this day. It's just like because it keeps growing. Everything keeps growing. It's like peeling an onion. It's just like a deeper understanding of that expansiveness, and then you know shitty things happen. It's like you're feeling great, and all of a sudden you're in another shitty relationship that rocks your world, that confuses everything. It's just like what, and you're in this dark corner of your life, and go, what? How did I get here? I was doing so good. Well, because you know your brain thinks I got to do this. I should be married. I should have children. And you know, and forgive me, I don't. I love my children. I love my children, but it's like it came it they happened before I was ready. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
happened way
definitely.
before I was ready, and it was just like, go. You can't
Please.
hear me.
I want to control everything.
Like, ah, you know, it's just like, nope, nope, nope.
Uh,
Here they are. It's just like, oh fuck.
Sometimes the universe has different plans for us.
I'm that. So
Okay, that's very exciting. I feel like you would have to come out twice in your life. You've come out as an actor, which we've spoken about, and that's not easy. And then to come out as a spiritual being, especially I feel like in that age, would be quite hard. Or was that quite easy for you because you had your religious potential upbringing?
I'm still trying to make sense out of it, Michael.
Yeah, aren't we all?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So am I firmly planted in what I what I would consider faith, like full faith, you know, learning to let go and letting God. That's that's a you know, maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get it
One
one
of these
day, but
lifetimes. Yeah.
but I do consider myself a journeyman, you know, a journeyman actor, a journeyman, a spiritual warrior, you know, a peaceful warrior, you know, and the more I bring everything I've learned as an actor and in theater school and those wonderful teachers that really gave me permission to be myself, to bring that and apply it to your life, it's hard not to want to see God in everyone's face because you want everybody to come out and play. My problem is that I get so disappointed when they don't want to play.
Yeah, we're similar.
You know what I mean? I take it so personally that they don't want to play. It's just like, so,
I know, because it feels like a rejection of life at times.
yeah,
And having
yeah,
been seen the difference between what it can do for you, your whole being, as opposed to what it, if you don't embrace it, there's a big
yeah,
difference in quality of life.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And isn't it, it's all like fluid, and it's all something that, we apply different things, we try different things, whether we like it or not, or we're learning new things. I feel like when you've done that, especially at a young age, I feel like once you kind of embraced you being you, and you've
Yeah,
seen Grandmaster Kitty, your
yeah.
career, even though that's secondary, but you've had a beautiful career. I feel like your career just kind of went, you've been working for 30 years. I feel like potentially that helped you, at least with your mindset, and that kind of changed how you were working and operating in the world as well.
You know what? You know what, Michael? It's like I think there's a pivot that I'd like to mention, and that's when I went from living in New York, not working, and then ended up at the Yale School of Drama, and it was those 3 years with an acting teacher named Earl Gister, who was the dean at the time and the dean of the acting program, and so acting in New York was all, sense memory stuff and activating your body and what's going on, what am I feeling, all the emotional stuff. When I got to Yale, it was all they didn't want to see any of that.
Oh, really?
They just wanted to see you play. They just wanted to see you jump and make choices and have fun. And that became very liberating. And
Yeah.
that was taking everything I had learned up until that point and making sense out of, oh, that's how I activate all the emotion. The emotions will come once I jump and just have fun and connect and affect the world and how do I want to make you feel? It's like the awareness from New York was like all internal, and the Yale training was all external, and how you wanted to just change things and be effective in the world. So I was much more active in the creative process, how you affect things. And then you start learning, oh, everything I do affects someone else. My behavior in this moment will affect people in this room. If I'm happy, that will affect them. If I'm sad, that will affect them. Everything has a response to what I'm doing. And once you start seeing that in your life, you start taking responsibility for how you behave and how you show up.
Yep.
And you start saying, you know what? And I think it's that joy that activated my joy again. And I attribute that to the 30 years that I've been doing what I've been doing.
Brilliant.
And coincidentally, the times that I was working less were the times where I was feeling shitty. And then you come out of it and you kind of go, gratitude. Oh, I love my life. Oh, this is good. Oh, look what I get to do. I get my arms, I get to dance. This music makes me happy. The sunshine makes me happy. And all of a sudden the fucking phone rings.
Oh, because you're in that state.
All of a sudden the phone rings. I love making a meal. Oh, I love this meal. I'm making a little salad. I'm chopping up the vegetables. I'm washing the dishes. The dishes are so much fun. Oh, feel that. Oh, I love how warm this water is on my hands. You know what I mean? Where everything becomes alive again. And when you're tapped into that, fucking the phone will ring every time. Every friggin' time.
I call like the flow state, where you just feel like you're invincible, but not in like a narcissistic way. You just feel like you're so connected. I've had a few moments. I'd like to do it more, but as you said, it's a practice. We can build to it.
Dude, I mean, right in this moment, I'm having the best time with you, and we're doing what we love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just shooting shit. We're like connecting. We're playing. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful. But when you're home
Same.
and you're all alone, it's just like try washing the dishes. Just focus on the dishes. And
Yeah.
it's Zen. It's just Zen. It's meditation. It's everything to just, so where am I putting my focus? Where am I putting my focus? It's like, that's what we all need to ask ourselves. Am I putting up my focus on how shitty I'm feeling, or am I putting my focus on how beautiful those birds are outside? To start fucking going, fucking bird. You know what? Every morning I fucking wake up and think, that sun is here again. That sun has been burning bright for billions of years. And if you spend enough time imagining this fucking sun burning and this earth, the planet, right? We think the earth is like underneath our feet, but that shit is just floating in space.
Yep.
It's just this big thing that's just floating in space. And it's been spinning around this sun for billions of years. And I go, how the fuck is that happening?
Yep. To keep us alive.
And I get so excited about that. I get so excited
I can see.
about being a part of that.
Yeah.
And so I don't get out of bed until I try to wrap my brain around what the fuck is really going on in the universe. Because it's, and I'm not talking the woo-woo stuff. I'm talking about planets and stars and this planet and everything that is just in perfect balance and harmony. It's finding homeostasis. This is science, man. Nature finds homeostasis. It finds balance. So why are we fucking it up? Why do we think that we need to go against the grain and think, oh, I'm going to figure this out? No, we got to let go and let God is what we got to do.
I love that you feel so excited about something which is like an extremely important question that no one thinks about, and it brings you this joy. Like, how does it work?
Boggles my mind. You know,
Yeah.
the planet, like Earth, is like this big, right? It's that big. And the sun is like this fucking big. It's like, what the fuck, man?
You should definitely do stand up. You could do a very good bit on this. I love it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That scares the shit out of me. That really scares the shit out of me.
We'll keep an open mind. I just want to tie up one thing before we do a quick rapid fire segment. Oh, you know, we spoke about self-worth, and I think a lot of creators, for example, as an actor, that we attach our self-worth to being an actor. And you alluded to that your self-worth at the start was attached very much to when you're working. And then now you realize that you are an actor. I feel like that's a massive journey in itself. And I have a quote from you. I live in a liquid universe. It's up to me to find joy when I'm not working. That's a lot easier said than done. With anything that spring to mind, because that's every single person on this podcast, and I've spoken to off the air, that's been a huge challenge for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because you have to redefine yourself. If I keep identifying myself just as an actor, I'm fucked.
Mm.
You know, so that had to change for me. That had to shift. If I had known better as a 20-year-old man, I would have accepted the fact that I was a student and that I was learning. I was in a process. I was in the process of learning how to do this. But I didn't know how to identify with that. I didn't think that was enough. That was acceptable. You know, socially acceptable. You know,
Yeah.
well, you're in the process. What the fuck does that mean? It's like I'm in school. I'm a student. I want to learn this stuff. And I knew the first acting teacher back at the University of Toronto, when she told me to go to New York, she told me, you know, it takes 10 years for you to be an actor. And I think you can apply that to anything. You know, it's like the whole, 10,000 hours of mastering something. You really have to spend those hours to master something. I didn't understand what she meant then, but I took her literally. I go, okay, my 20s will be about learning.
It's rare.
But when I'm 30, I want to start working. Well, that's how it worked out. You know, I spent my 20s in school and learning and busting my head and bouncing around in dark and hitting my head against the wall. And then when I was 30, work started happening. And that was 30 years ago. So,
go on.
Yeah, no. So I forget what your question was, but
No, I think you've done well. We'll have to talk about this another time, just as a side point. Not everyone in this day and age would be willing to put in 10 years of work to pursue something. And I think it's crucial you need to have like a base. I always refer to it as a pyramid. If you don't have a strong base, then if you want to be doing something that you love for the rest of your life or long term, how's it going to work out?
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty.
And not even 10 years of like, you know, because unfortunately people who find this passion, such as yourself, you had to walk away from, I'm sure, job security or something. And
The whole works. Yeah.
so, you know what I mean? It's just like, but that's where the crazy comes in.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by crazy. You've got to walk away from that security. You've got to walk away from that full-time job. You've got to walk away from a relationship. You've got to walk away from your parents, that social structure that your mindset, your paradigm exists on a different level. You got to walk away from it.
I know. But it's scary, but you never look back. And then tying back to the lady's book that, the lady I had on the podcast, is that, you kind of have the one life, and you're not going to regret necessarily pursuing your joy and your happiness, as long as you're like actually following your heart and it's not for egotistical reasons. You won't look back.
You listen to enough Joseph Campbell, and you want to understand, the mythology, the myths, the archetypes that we study. But it's like he kept saying over and over. You know what he said? Follow your bliss. You follow your bliss. You're connected to the divine. That's it. Plain and simple. You're connected to the divine. Unfortunately, socially, just because you're following your bliss doesn't mean you become a billionaire and you become the CEO. Yeah, you're CEO of you just but you keep following that. You're doing a little dance. I'd have that first more than anything. And you know what? Here's the other thing. I never ever thought I'd make a buck doing this.
Oh, really?
No. It's like everybody said I wasn't going to make a living.
But you did at some level. Obviously.
I did it anyway because it was something. I was finding my voice. I was finding my voice. I was discovering shit that I wouldn't have discovered back in Toronto. I was discovering who I was. And then when you make a deal with the universe and say, "Hey man, I got to pay my bills. I got to pay my rent," and I kind of told you that I wasn't going to wait tables anymore. So,
go on, work for me. Give me something.
What's up?
Yeah.
The 11th hour always showed up with a little gift, a little job, just enough to get you going, just to kind of keep you buoyant. Those first years in New York were just, I call them the spirit of the actor warrior, when you just have $20 in your pocket and you got to pay your rent, and all of a sudden again, but if you're walking through Greenwich Village just with a spring in your step, that phone will ring because you're living the life you wanted to live. I'm a fucking actor in New York. I've got an agent now. It's like I go out on auditions. I get to do this. I get to do this.
How wonderful. You have to write a book. That's your homework.
Okay.
Before we go, we're going to do the quickest rapid fire segment. I'm going to ask 3 questions. The first thing that springs to mind, but I'm not going to comment on them because I'll derail them. What is your next big dream or goal?
Fuck it, I want to win an Academy Award. Why not?
Great.
Why not? Everybody else is getting one. I want one too.
How have you changed your definition of success over the years?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about it the whole time. How I can sustain my joy in the midst of adversity. That's if I could look at the world and no matter what comes at me, I still have a connection to feeling joy and not let any of that stuff concern me or rock my world. That's it. To live my life in appreciation, every moment in appreciation for what it is, as it is. I'll take that over anything else.
Beautiful. What are you most proud of?
Wanting to learn that.
Oh, okay.
Wanting that, asking for it.
We're gonna have to do like 10-part series just to like dive deep in each of those questions. Last question. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Yeah, well, that's a tough one, man, because everybody's on their journey, right?
Definitely.
And I've learned late in life that to be responsible for anybody else, it's a dead end road. You really have to trust that the spirit in each one of us is speaking to us directly. And if they're willing to actually listen to that, what I've heard coined as that still small voice, if they're willing to listen to that, it won't, it'll turn out okay. If you really have a relationship with that voice, you could really go anywhere, knowing that I'm safe, I'm loved, everything's okay, all is well. To really start believing that no matter if you go left or right, if you want to leave a job, but I think, the advice I've been given is before you leave, find the joy in that job. You know what I mean? Don't leave angry. Don't leave upset. Don't leave like you've been mistreated, but really start looking for the good things in that job, because looking for the good things in a shitty situation, once you leave it, you'll just keep looking for good stuff. Train yourself to start looking at where you are right now as good. That's hard.
It takes practice, and then you build to mastery, and you see the world.
That takes 10 years.
Yeah. This is brilliant. Before we go, how can people follow you? And I think you've got some shows coming out on Instagram.
And you know what? I wish I had something other than Instagram and Twitter. I think people still do Twitter. Do they do Twitter?
I do, but only a certain amount of time.
I'm at Enrico Colantoni on Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Enrico Colantoni _
Really?
I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah. So I got little blue check marks on both of them, so don't follow anybody else.
Yeah.
And I usually, I'll peruse them once in a while and see what's going on, but not on there all the time.
Mm.
But I can give out my phone number if anybody wants to call me direct. It's like, that's cool.
I know you're joking, but please don't. Amazing.
Michael, but let's have another one. This was a lot of fun, man.
Thank you. This was beautiful. I really appreciate it. I love your mindset and your playfulness attitude. It is contagious. People can check out your socials in the episode notes, but this was a real joy. And yeah, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
My pleasure, man. Pleasure meeting you too, brother.
I love Rico's philosophy of what if. He explains that this question does something magical to our brain. It allows for a better vision and version of our life. Our brain does the work when we simply ask the question, what if? Instead of all the possibilities of why something may not work or go to the plan, what if it could? Close your eyes. You will see the better outcomes. Keep asking the question. The vision will get clearer and stronger. Forget what if it can go bad and replace it with what if it could get better. What if is a brilliant question to ask if we want to see and feel a better outcome. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.